Hello, you are watching Shalom World News. I'm Rory McLennan coming to you from Glasgow, Scotland. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. The Holy Father has announced that he will elevate 21 men to the cardinalate on the 30th of September in the Vatican. Among those entering the College of Cardinals is the prefect-elect of the Dicastery for the Faith, Archbishop Victor Manuel Fernandez, and the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, Pier Battista Pizzaballa. A prolific writer with more than 300 books to his credit, Archbishop Fernandez has been a member of the Pontifical Council for Culture and is currently a member of the Dicastery for Culture and Education. Hailing from Italy, Archbishop Pizzaballa has been a member of the Franciscan Order since 1984. He has been in the Holy Land since 1990. Since October in 2020, the Franciscan has been serving as the Latin Patriarch, the Auxiliary Bishop of Lisbon, and the President of the World Youth Day Lisbon 2023 Foundation. Americo Manuel Alves Aguiar will also be joining the College of Cardinals. He has been the Auxiliary of Lisbon since 2019. The Cardinal Designate is also the Director of the Communication Department of the Patriarchate of Lisbon. More than 450 delegates appointed by Pope Francis will be taking part in the first General Assembly of the Synod on Synodality in the Vatican in October. They include members of the Roman Curia, cardinals, bishops and dozens of men and women religious and lay people. Among the 364 members with voting rights are 54 women. American prelates who will be attending include the head of the US Conference of Catholic Bishops, Archbishop Timothy Broglio of the Military Ordinariate, Cardinal Timothy Dolan of New York, Bishop Daniel Flores of Brownsville in Texas, Bishop Robert Barron of Winona Rochester, and Bishop Kevin Rhodes of Fort Wayne South Bend. As many as 37 nuns are also taking part in the discussions. Some of the prominent names include Synod General Under-Secretary Sister Natalie Beckard, Sister Maria de los Dolores Palencia of the Latin American Bishops' Conference or CELAM, and noted Indian educator Sister Lalitha Thomas. Head of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church, Major Archbishop Sviatoslav Shevchuk, has praised parishes for their resilient and continuous prayer ever since the beginning of Russia's invasion of Ukraine on February the 24th last year. He said this during a press conference in Lutsk, marking the 500th day of the Russia-Ukraine war during the weekend. The prelate also expressed his gratitude to volunteers who made every effort to prevent deaths in Ukraine due to hunger, cold or other causes. The Major Archbishop also remembered Father Ivan Levitsky and Father Bogdan Heleta, who are awaiting release after being captured by Russians. Meanwhile, top government officials and representatives from the All-Ukrainian Council of Churches and religious organizations took part in an ecumenical prayer in Lviv on the occasion. President Volodymyr Zelensky, Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal, and Lviv Mayor Andriy Sadoivi attended the prayer event entitled God, Watch Over Ukraine, 500 Days of Resistance and Victory. Following his Sunday Angelus addressing the faithful in St. Peter's Square, the Holy Father called for dialogue in Ukraine and the Holy Land. Decrying events in the Holy Land, the Holy Father appealed for peace and reconciliation between Israelis and Palestinians. He further expressed hopes that the authorities can resume direct dialogue to end the spiral of violence and open paths of reconciliation and peace. With special greetings to the Girl Scouts and university students from Leopoli, the Pope also assured his prayers for suffering Ukrainians. In the American state of California, legislation is being proposed to penalize school districts that prohibit books deemed unsuitable for youth. Assembly Bill 1078 targets local school board control of the curriculum and what sort of books will be allowed in public schools. After being heard in the Senate Education Committee, it was passed by 5-2 last week. According to a recent report, around 1,500 books were prohibited in the first half of the 2022-2023 school year. According to PEN, America's Index of School Books Bans list, 30% of the titles banned are books about race. As much as 26% of the banned volumes contain homosexual themes or characters. A London-based Christian group has raised concerns over teaching materials in hundreds of UK schools that imply homosexual behaviour is acceptable in Christianity, Judaism and Islam. Christian Concern is a non-profit that is supporting multiple Christian parents in their legal battles against schools that promote age-inappropriate sexual materials. Fox News Digital has reported that the lesson plans, which include slides and activities created by the pro-homosexual organisation Just Like Us, encourage teaching about same-sex relationships to students as young as 5. English and mathematics lessons for younger primary school students also include discussions on gender pronouns and same-sex families. Head of Education at Christian Concern, Steve Bigu, said instructional material from Just Like Us is targeting people of faith, and the teaching materials are designed to train the thinking of children away from traditional beliefs of the Christian faith. He said this is another attempt to undermine Christian teaching on marriage and the biblical and biological understanding that we are born male and female. A Texas school system is prohibiting students from using bathrooms and pronouns that are different to their biological sex. The school board was persuaded by parents to adopt new regulations by Citizens Defending Freedom, which declared that teachers and staff shall not promote, encourage, or require the use of pronouns that are inconsistent with a student's or other person's biological sex. Additionally, it states that children must utilize the bathroom and locker room that corresponds to their biological sex. The move comes as the gender ideology debate is gaining momentum across the United States. American Congressman Chris Smith has renewed his request to visit Nicaraguan prelate Bishop Rolando Jose Alvarez of Matagalpa, who has been imprisoned by the Daniel Ortega dictatorship. The Republican congressman also demanded an end to the persecution of the Catholic Church in the Central American country. In a statement on the 6th of July, Smith reiterated his plea to travel to Nicaragua to see Bishop Alvarez, saying he is still very worried for the prelate's safety and well-being in light of conflicting reports about his whereabouts. In a letter sent to President Ortega last month, the congressman sought a meeting with the bishop. On the 10th of February, the prelate was tried and sentenced to 26 years in jail over trumped-up sedition charges. At least 300 people are missing after boats carrying migrants disappeared while trying to reach Spain's Canary Islands from Senegal in Africa. According to the migrant relief organisation Walking Borders, 3 migrant boats were heading from North Africa towards the Canary Islands. 2 boats, one with around 65 people on board and the other with around 60, have been missing for 15 days after leaving Senegal in an attempt to reach Spain. On the 27th of June, a 3rd boat with around 200 individuals on board departed Senegal. They have not been heard from since. This comes weeks after Europe saw one of its worst Mediterranean migrant shipwrecks when an overcrowded trawler sank off the Greek coast. A Tennessee law prohibiting the provision of so-called gender-affirming care to children has been upheld by the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals. Nearly a week after a federal district judge temporarily blocked the law, the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals allowed Tennessee's restriction to go into effect on Saturday. The court's decision was split by 2-1, and with this verdict, a federal court has approved a ban on such treatment that was blocked by a lower court for the first time. Dissent is brewing in the Church of England over an attempt to bless same-sex couples. Evangelicals within the communion have come out with an open letter addressed to prelates urging them not to grant blessings to same-sex couples. They argue that the move will be unlawful, unconstitutional and illegitimate. The bishops have published so-called prayers of love and faith, which contain a formula to bless homosexual couples. The open letter was signed by 27 evangelicals belonging to several organisations within the Anglican Communion. During their meeting in February, the Synod had supported the prayers of love and faith, and bishops have been working to fine-tune the prayers and release new pastoral guidance for priests. A Republican lawmaker in the United States has introduced a bill that marks 1 month every year as Fidelity Month. This would be to encourage Americans to rededicate themselves to values of faith, family and patriotism. Addressing the media, West Virginia Republican Alex Mooney said the country's survival depends on those values. Mooney said he was inspired by Christian philosopher and Princeton University professor Robert George, who initiated the idea of dedicating the month of June as Fidelity Month. He said that he and other members of Congress share concerns about the decline in the Christian faith, patriotism and the value of the family. More than 1,000 Catholics and Baptists have been forced to flee from their village in Myanmar's Kachin state after fresh conflict broke out between armed rebels and the military. Residents of Nan Sang Yang village near the town of Liza fled after fierce fighting erupted on the 3rd of July. Many of the displaced believers are in a refugee camp on the premises of a Catholic church in Wai Mai town. There are growing concerns about how long the church and local authorities can feed the displaced masses. Local armed rebels are seeking self-rule and autonomy for the region. Fighting intensified after the military junta sent reinforcements to Liza town. Most of the 1.7 million residents of the state are Christians, out of which Catholics number around 116,000. Over half of child trafficking victims worldwide are illegally transported within their own country. That's according to a new report by the International Organization for Migration and François Xavier Bagnoud Center for Health and Human Rights at Harvard. The report said that those transported for forced labour were more likely to be trafficked domestically. The study shows that despite tremendous efforts, many children still become victims of traffickers, partly because of unequal social, economic, environmental and political conditions. It also shows that nearly half of child trafficking victims, mostly boys, are sold as forced labourers. Sexual exploitation is also said to be prevalent. And those are your latest headlines. Do join us again tomorrow for more. And do remember you can always visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.